Now let's turn to China, because the coronavirus death toll there is now above 80. We know thousands of others are infected. Let me show you some of the pictures that have come in the last few hours. So this is a hospital in Wuhan. It's under extreme pressure because of dwindling supplies and rising patient numbers. And you can see the conditions in which staff are having to work. It's a very different scene outside. This is the center of Wuhan. It's a city that's home to 11 million people. Not that you would know it. Many of the streets are deserted. People are being told they can't leave the city. They're being advised to stay indoors. Meanwhile, everyone else in China is being told, stay away from Wuhan. Next, this is Beijing. You'll see a number of people, well, not from that shop, but lots of people wearing face masks. This is much quieter than the public transport would normally be because people are simply reluctant to go out. And then this is really interesting. A factory in Fujian province in eastern China. It's desperately trying to meet the spiraling demand for face masks across China. Well, on top of that, we know 500,000 medical staff have been deployed to one province, Hubei province in Wuhan, where the outbreak began. Also, the New Year holiday has been extended. That's to try and reduce the number of people traveling all over China in the next few days. I've got a graphic here to show you how much the virus is spreading. The darker the red, the more cases there are. So here is Hubei province, 1,400 cases there, and you can see other places nearby in dark red as well. Most of the fatalities in Wuhan have been elderly people or those with pre-existing respiratory problems. Then this is a graphic from the World Health Organization showing us how it's spread outside of China. 44 cases from countries from as far afield as France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on. Almost every one of those cases is someone who had recently been to Wuhan. And there have been no fatalities outside China, I should add. Well, there's been a lot of focus on the mayor of Wuhan and how he's handled this crisis. Here he is on Chinese state TV.
Facing a sudden virus outbreak, our continuous work wasn't performed well enough. I feel that our capability of dealing with a crisis needs to be improved.
Well, for more on how the mayor's handling this epidemic, here's Celia Hatton.
He has offered to resign if it's found that his efforts weren't good enough. He also admitted that they could have done more to slow down the spread of the virus faster. But he's also kind of, at the same time, blamed Beijing, blamed the authorities right at the central government, because he said, look, we wanted to spread the news faster, but we had to get Beijing's permission first before we could report that there was an outbreak.
Well, hospitals in Wuhan are under severe pressure, as I was saying. One solution to this is simply to build a new hospital. This is a picture of China's premier visiting a construction site of a new 1,000-bed hospital in Wuhan. And the Chinese are in a rush with this. You can see the number of diggers involved. We're told engineers have been brought in from across China to help. The plan is to build this in days. Outside of Wuhan, well, in Beijing, the authorities have now closed the Forbidden City to tourists. They've also closed a section of the Great Wall of China. And many locals are either choosing not to go out at all or reducing going out to as low as possible. Here's one resident in Beijing.
We were very scared. Today, if it was not for my wife, who had to come to the hospital for a prenatal exam, we would not come out.
And let's hear from Kerry Allen. She's a China media analyst from BBC Monitoring. She's often on Outside Source. Here she is speaking about some of those affected.
We're seeing that at least 30 provinces have implemented what's known as a level 1 kind of emergency, so to speak. And so a lot of schools, for example, across the country, they're now delaying opening their classes. I mean, I was speaking to friends this morning who are teachers in Shanghai, and they've been told by the local government that they shouldn't go out, and if they do go out, to wear a mask. They've been told that term times are now suspended for 3 weeks, and companies have to wait 2 weeks. So a lot of people are very much on hold. They don't know whether they're going to work or to school. Yeah, they're frightened to go out.
Well, this is happening. The World Health Organization has come out and apologized for miscategorizing the global risk posed by this virus. Last week it said the risk was moderate. Now it says it should have said it was high. And for more on how the WHO is coordinating with the Chinese authorities, here's Zhao Yunfeng from BBC Chinese in Washington.
Well, I speak to some public health experts who say actually the Chinese government has done a better job in communicating with the international community regarding the outbreak, but still many online netizens from China criticize the Chinese government for delaying information release regarding the case count and regarding how contagious the virus could be. Some people lash out at the governor of Hubei, who in a press conference yesterday had to correct himself not only once but twice over the number of face masks produced in his province, and many Chinese see that as a sign of incompetence and they're demanding for his resignation. But it's also worth pointing out that many of those criticisms actually target the local authorities rather than the central government, and that's probably why those messages can still survive on Chinese internet.
And to what degree are the holidays around the New Year complicating the authorities' response?
Yes, so the Lunar New Year started on Saturday, but it's worth pointing out that Chinese celebrate the festival over the course of roughly 2 weeks. It's not only one day. And of course, this is a time when Chinese travel a lot, and also many business, even some governments suspend their operation, and that certainly becomes a very complicating factor in delaying the efforts of combating the virus. But we can see that Beijing has mobilized the whole country to fight the outbreak right now. On the New Year date, the Chinese leadership had a meeting. It has two major guidelines for propaganda, or let's say information release. The first of all is to be as transparent as possible to release the case count on a timely manner. The second one is to send out a unified message to the whole country that we can do this. If we unify together, there's no obstacle that we can't overcome.